Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Tuesday night edition of USA Hockey's Officiating Zoomcasts. This evening, we're bringing back our cult favorite and fan favorite, You Make the Call Live. My name is Scott Zelkin. I am the manager of USA Hockey's Junior Officiating Development Program, and I'll be your host this evening as we run through a handful of challenging and hopefully informative plays where we're going to show you some videos, talk with our expert panel here, and not only that, quiz you guys and come up with some judgments and then hopefully educate a little bit on terms of what some appropriate calls are within USA Hockey's playing rules. Joining me this evening, like I said, our expert panel are two of USA Hockey's finest officials. We have Jason Lortie and Melissa Szkola. Melissa, welcome to the Zoomcast. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get going.
Thanks, Scott. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Zoomcast tonight. My name's Melissa, like Scott said, and I've been an official with USA Hockey for about 17 years. Had the pleasure of working the 2018 Olympic Games and currently work as an officiating coach with the IIHF. So happy to be here with you guys tonight. And Jason, you're up.
Jason Lortie, tell us all about yourself.
Yeah, good to see everybody. Happy to be here. This is the second time that I've done one of these You Make the Call lives, and the first one was a lot of fun, so I'm looking forward to this one. I've been with USA Hockey now for, I think this is my 22nd year. I missed a year in between, and I didn't register in high school, and that was a shame because I didn't get all my swag that I would have gotten otherwise. But always excited to do anything with USA Hockey. Have done a lot of national championships and district championships and stuff like that. That has led me to doing, I think this is my 9th year of pro hockey that I've been working in. So excited to be here with Z and Melissa, and looking forward to looking at some clips with everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. The first thing we're going to do, and we do this with every Zoomcast, before we even show you any videos or talk about any clips, we're going to open it up with an initial poll question, actually a couple of poll questions, just to kind of talk about USA Hockey's rules, procedures. I know this has been covered in the past on previous Zoomcasts, but nonetheless, I think it's important when we talk about you making the call and using the rule book as a guide. You know, how is that rule book formed? What's the genesis and things like that? So I'm going to launch a poll question, 2 quick questions here, and we're going to ask you guys just to kind of jump in real quick and kind of real quick give you a little bit of background on that. So the first one, true or false, the USA Hockey referees section submits all proposals and makes all rule changes. And then second, USA Hockey's playing rules committee officially votes to approve or reject all rules changes. So let's see where this goes. And I think, Melissa, as the poll question is going, one thing, you know, you talked about the work you've done internationally representing the United States at the 2018 Olympic Games, and now working with the IIHF as an officiating coach. You're heavily involved in the Michigan district as well at USA Hockey, for USA Hockey at the grassroots level. That's true?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, awesome. All right. So with that, we've got almost everybody voted. So we're going to end the poll in 3, 2, 1. And let's share the results. So 84% of you answered the first question correctly, and that is USA Hockey's referee section submits all proposals and makes all rule changes. And then the second one, we're still at that kind of 84%. The USA Hockey Playing Rules Committee officially votes to approve or reject all rules changes. So to give a little bit of a background for everybody here, the official section within USA Hockey, the official section is made up of your district referees and chiefs, as well as a section director, the national referee in chief, who represent all of our 20 some odd thousand officials. They do not and are not responsible for all the playing rules changes. So every year, and we just went through a playing rules change this past summer, A year in advance, USA Hockey opens it up to every member of USA Hockey, player, coach, official, volunteer, to submit rule changes. And so anybody that's part of USA Hockey can submit a rule change. And so a lot of times, you know, certainly there are officials, because we spend most of our time in the rule book, we will submit, and by we, I mean all of the officials will submit rule changes. But there are plenty of rule changes that come from player development groups, coaches, various players. A lot of senior hockey players will submit rule changes and things like that. And then what happens is it goes to the Plain Rules Committee. So this is our second question. And the Plain Rules Committee will vote to approve or to not approve a plain rules suggestion. So there might be a suggestion that all officials need to drop the puck while standing on their head. And the Plain Rules Committee will discuss that. And the Plain Rules Committee is 20 some odd members, only a few of which are officials. The rest, once again, are are made up of members of USA Hockey's board of directors. You might have some player representatives, you might have some coach-in-chiefs, things like that. They will discuss and make a recommendation. And so when they approve or not approve, it's only a recommendation to USA Hockey's board of directors. And ultimately, it's USA Hockey's board of directors that finally votes and determines whether or not a plain rules change will go into effect. So though we are charged, as we being officials, though we are charged with enforcing the rules of the game, we are not the only body within USA Hockey that is responsible for determining what the rules are or making any rules changes. So just a quick refresher as we go forward here. And now I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get going with our video clips, and you make the call. And how this will work is I'm going to show you guys a video. We're going to put up a poll question. We'll ask what the call is. We'll then show you the answer, talk to our panel of experts to discuss it a little bit. If at any time you have questions about this, please use the Q&A feature on your bar, and we'll be glad to address it. So you should all be able to see the intro slide right now, and let's get going. You make the call. So first play, and we're going to show this to you 2 times. And this one, I'm going to give you a hint. It happens at the end of this video. So there's going to be a lead up, and then you'll get to see what happens. So as they say, you make the call.
Offside the call. Side trying to hack at it.
We'll watch it one more time. Watch it at the end.
Offside the call. Stop.
All right. So what's the call? Here comes your poll question. We'll give you guys 30 seconds to make your determination.
So Z, just while people are answering it, I think that was a good kind of intro with those first 2 questions, especially with some of the things that have been happening, conversations with coaches and parents and whatever it might be, in terms of who actually has suggested so many of these rule changes that it seems like so many people have issues with this year is at the amateur level.
No, for sure. And I think that's important because, you know, certainly there is a little bit of consternation or some controversy about a couple of these. And it's not the officials. We're just enforcing the real rules, right, Melissa?
Yeah, absolutely. We have to respond and react to the play that happens on the ice and by the rule book that we have in front of us. So whether we like the rules or not, it's our job to enforce them.
Okay. All right. So I understand this video might have been a little bit choppy, so we're going to show it again. First, I'm gonna share the results. The majority of people felt minor penalties across the board to both players. Let's watch this video one more time, and we're going to what I'm going to do is kind of roll through it here very quickly. And here the situation is going to occur here at the blue line. So what you should all be able to see right now is 27 in the gray. He's going to turn, drop his hands, and hit the black player there across the hands. And then just at the end of the video, the black player on 28 is going to come across with the stick. So that's the situation we're looking for. And one thing I also want to note, while this is a junior clip, we are looking for, in all cases, the youth interpretation and youth standard here. So, sharing the results, this is what everybody came up with for those of you that were able to answer. The majority felt it was coincidental minor penalties. Then our next group felt a major in a game to gray and a minor to the black player. And then one person felt major in games to both players. So now here is the answer we're looking for. All right, the player in gray should receive a match penalty. The player in black should be a major penalty and a game misconduct. And this is rule 634, which is slashing. So Jason, we're going to go back here. I want you to walk us through why this penalty, why the initial player gray should receive a match penalty in our minds, and then why black then gets thrown out with a major in a game. So what's the difference here for us?
I think the big issue here for 27 gray is that this is a play that really has absolutely nothing to do with any type of hockey play. It's the only purpose of trying to do something like this when the puck is 10, 20 feet away is really to try to hurt someone. And it's not just the idea of recklessly endangering another player, that new kind of verbiage that we have in the rule book. It's also the idea of it's a pretty darn forceful slash right at the opposing player. Again, this is not a hockey player. The puck is nowhere to be found. And he's really, you can even see, I think one of the things that really gives this one away is the way that 27, you can actually see right now, right where Z has it paused. He is literally turning his head away from the play to find the opponent and deliver a forceful slash directly at the opponent. So sure, I can understand the idea of people that are saying this is a minor penalty for slashing. Yeah. But it's the idea of this goes well beyond your run-of-the-mill minor penalty for slashing when someone's maybe trying to make a play on the puck carrier to try to get possession of the puck and accidentally rides up and he accidentally gets the player high on the hands or something like that. This is a slash that's being delivered really, in my opinion, only to try to hurt someone. And with the way that the rule book has been changed, it's made it really easy with the addition of like a match penalty under the slashing penalty. I don't even have to go attempt to injure here. I can just say under the match penalty or under the slashing rule now, we have 634C, where it is just a match penalty for slashing for reckless and endangerment type of a place here. In terms of the retaliation, I think the retaliation is bad as well. I find it interesting that a lot of people think that the retaliation for 26 is just a minor as well, because man, if that's not a pretty good hack. So again, the idea of calling this by the letter of the law, again, the only reason to swing a stick like that, and it's questionable whether or not he maybe makes contact or not. So that's the idea of maybe it just being a 5 in a game for swinging a stick like that. But again, these types of plays go well beyond your run-of-the-mill minor penalties for slashing, I think.
Melissa, anything you want to add?
I think going back to how Jason said, you could see 27 turning his head. He's distinctively looking to make sure he can make that contact. And it's not even contact to the stick. You can see him kind of focusing in on where he's going to make
he's
contact.
looking up,
and it's
right?
Yeah, up in his hands and his wrists,
Yep.
like Jason said. The only thing that could come of this is potential injury. And we don't even necessarily need that anymore. It's a dangerous play and has nothing to do with the game at hand. So no playing the puck isn't even nearby. That is not accidental by any means. So it's really, looking at the intent and the full picture of that whole play. They are both just dangerous actions.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? And I think this isn't necessarily an easy play for an official to see either, because we're, in the 3 official system or in the 2 official system, maybe we're focused on the puck and there's just no purpose to it. And we don't want players, one of the roles of an official is to keep the game safe. There's nothing safe about either one of these plays. And so, that's why when you see plays like this, and I'll say this a few times, and the officials that may work with me on a regular basis, they hear this a lot, but actions like that, the player forfeits his right to stay in the hockey game. That's not a hockey play. So let's go now to our next example. And I think that's a good way to start. So here we go. You make the call, and I'll show this a few times again, and then I'll kind of drag it through here. So maybe all of you get the opportunity to see it. We want to make sure you all get the opportunity to see it. So here we go. We're going to be looking in front of the net.
As we get a look at the replay of the goal being discussed, the roll free out front, yeah, right off the skate. And as we get a look at the replay of the goal being discussed, the roll free out front, yeah, right off the skate. And as we get a look at the replay.
It's a good job at editing. We cut it right before the referee makes any signal. I love it.
I know, I did that on purpose.
Yeah,
Every once in a while, I'm a good video technician. Okay, so
As we get a look at the replay.
what's the call? Time for a poll question. You make the call. I like this. We got a couple people that want to go to video review. Awesome.
Really? Man, if only it was that easy.
I've had a little practice lately, but no thanks.
Okay, we got a lot of audience participation on this one, so that's good. Okay, so let's end the poll. Let's share our results. And here's our results. The majority of people say that's no goal. We've got 25% say it's a goal, and 8% they want to just call upstairs and let the war room answer. So let's watch it one more time.
As we get a look at the replay of the goal being discussed.
So we know it's off the skate. Melissa, what's the rule call for in USA Hockey?
Pardon me, you were kind of broken
I'm
up.
sorry. So USA Hockey's rule for goals off the skate, goals are disallowed off the skate if
There's any distinct kicking motion
yeah,
or deflecting off of.
that's right. So no goal. This is no goal, everyone. And actually at the youth rule, one of the things we talk about is it's just got to be kicked. And so the rule says 617C1, a goal shall not be allowed if the following occurs. An attacking player kicks the puck directly into the goal, or they kick the puck and it deflects off of any player, including the goalkeeper, prior to entering the goal. So, what do we see here that's going to lead us to believe this shouldn't be a goal?
To me, you're really watching for movement that is happening. Typically, if it's a legit deflection, it's almost accidental. There was no movement of the body. So if you want to use the word directing, he's moving his hip all the way down to his foot to make movement towards the net to direct that puck in by kicking. So for me on this one, it's definitely a no goal, kicking that puck right into the net.
Jason, anything you want to add?
It's just, I'll say it almost the opposite way that Melissa did, where she's saying intentional. I'll say it the opposite way of accidental, right? For this to be a good goal, it has to be an accidental deflection off of this player. And I think it's pretty obvious that when you look at it, this isn't an accidental deflection. This is absolutely an intentional direction by kicking it. And it makes it pretty clear.
Yeah. And one thing we like to talk to officials about as well is, especially on this one, watch, and I can't, let's see if I can do this. No, I can't. Watch his knee. If you look at the knee, it's almost a pendulum motion. There's a hinge there, and that whole leg is moving forward. And once again, as a referee, this isn't necessarily an easy call. It looks really easy when we're all sitting here watching it 5 times on our screen, you know, and able to go back and forth. But, you know, Melissa, what is your suggestion to a referee on a play like this? What should they be watching? Where are they watching?
I'm honestly watching, it's hard to say, almost their whole body depending on where that puck is coming from. But with this one being on the ice, I'm watching from their hips all the way down. So I can see that motion starting all the way up at the hip, seeing that hinge more happen down at the knee, and a distinct motion directing that puck right into the net. So like Jason said prior, if it's accidental, none of that movement happens. It is a legit deflection and it goes in. So typically you would not see any of that movement happening. And so to me, the big cues here are the hip to the knee and then watching that foot direct it right into the net.
Yeah, that's correct. And we had a really good question here from Chad, and he said a player can intentionally redirect the puck into the net without a kicking motion. Correct. Jason, what do you think there?
No, the amateur rule book is pretty straightforward, where there's no kicking motion allowed or direction allowed. So we can't direct the puck. Really, the way to think about this is the way that I like to think about it for youth hockey. The only piece of equipment that we can use, or that anybody can use to score a goal legally by directing the puck, is the stick. So if I direct the puck with my head, I can't score a goal. If I direct a puck with my leg, I can't score a goal. It has to be a deflection off of anything other than the stick in order for it to be a legal goal.
There we go. If Jason Lortie says it's true, then it must be so.
And Z, I saw it tried in a game a couple days ago where someone tried to headbutt the puck in, and I had to make it clear to the player that had that gone in, it wouldn't have been a goal. Like we can't score soccer style goals in hockey, unfortunately.
That's right.
It'd be exciting if we could, but we can't.
Not yet. And if you in the audience want to make that a legal goal, submit a rule change in 3 years.
I want to make hand passes legal on net. I think that would be a lot more exciting. That's going to be my rule change.
There we go. All right. Next
opportunities.
You make the call out there in the audience. Here we go. And we'll show it a few times again. We're going to be watching around the net. Oh, I'm sorry. We're gonna go back to it, and here we go. I'll show it to you this way. Slow it down a few times. So are we counting this goal, or are we not counting this goal, regardless of what the officials on the ice are doing? We'll go back one more time. Okay, so let's do the slide, or not the slide, I'm sorry, let's do the poll question here. Sometimes I can't talk and do this stuff at the same time. Okay, here we go. Poll questions up. What's your call? No goal and no penalty to the attacking player. Goal, the defending player pushes the attacker into the net. No goal and a minor penalty assessed to the attacking player. Goal and a minor penalty.
This is a great clip too. I think this shows a lot of really good examples of some stuff once we see how the answers come back in a second here.
There is a lot going on here, and this is also something that happens. I mean, you know what? This can happen quite a bit. And especially, you know, when games get tight and when a goalie's doing good, what do coaches always tell their players, right? Get traffic to the net. You got to get to the net. You got to get to the net. And that's what happens here. So
Yet sometimes you get players who might be a little overzealous. Yeah, when it comes to that idea. So
that's right. All right. So we're going to share our results. Okay. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So the majority, but it's spread out pretty good here, have no goal and a minor penalty to the attacking player. Okay. A few people feel there's a goal. The same amount say no goal and no penalty. And then we've got 13% say goal and a minor penalty assessed to the defending player. So now let's see what happens here. Let's see it again.
Goaltender interference is called here, and correctly so. The Omaha player does get a little push, but it is right at the point when he is already making contact with the Des Moines goalie. Though there may be times when an attacking player is pushed and cannot avoid contact with the goalie, this isn't one of them. The attacker is responsible for his actions. With the goaltender in his crease, the attacker must do his best to avoid contact. Goaltender interference.
Okay, so we already know the answer, but no goal, though the attacker is eventually pushed into the goalie, he initially makes contact while the goalie is in the crease. This goal cannot be allowed. Now, is there a penalty to the attacking player? And the answer is yes. Rule 625A, any player who makes physical contact using their stick or the body in a manner that interferes with the movement of the goalkeeper unless otherwise specified within this rules. So, Jason, like you said, there's a lot going on here. What's our thought process?
I think, if you can cue it up, I think there's a very specific point where the attacking player has a decision that he has to make. And the decision that he basically has to make is whether or not he's going to change his path to the goaltender and towards the net, or if he's going to continue on the path towards the goaltender and risk, like he does here, making contact then with the goaltender. And so because this is the way I like to explain this one sometimes when I'm either talking to players or coaches is, you made a bad choice. You had the choice to avoid contact with the goaltender, and instead you made the choice to go towards the goaltender. You can actually see this player, he tries to make a play on the puck. That's the thing that keeps him moving towards the goaltender. And because of that, he's the one that ends up initiating contact with the goaltender. I don't even really see all that much of a push. Like, I think it's like how the narration says it. It's after he's already made contact with the goaltender that the defending player kind of runs into him more than anything. So it's really hard to say that it's the defenseman pushing him in here. And it's also really hard to say, maybe there's a slight argument for the goaltender being out of the crease. But I think if you could zoom in on it, you'd see that the goaltender absolutely has contact with the crease still as well. So it's a bad choice. The player has the choice to avoid contact, and he chooses not to. He chooses to continue the path towards the goaltender, and that ends up being a minor penalty for interference. Then obviously, if we're calling a minor penalty for interference here, we absolutely would have no goal as well. So,
and Melissa, I mean, that area of the ice is painted blue for a reason, right?
Absolutely. You have to give the goalie opportunity to play his position or hers. So in him making that decision to be on top of the goalie, they've taken that away. So to me, it's very simple. The goalie could not play their position. So interference, absolutely.
And you know, I think for the easiest way I could ever describe this to officials, when we talk about contact around the crease, the goalie's entitled to do whatever he wants within that blue paint. And as an attacking player, even if the puck's in there, you have to allow that goalie to do whatever he needs to do. And Melissa, it's your words, to do his job or her job to defend that net. You can't, as an attacker, prevent that. And if you go in the blue paint, you risk bad things happening. And what are those bad things, right? You lose a goal and maybe you get a penalty. So stay out of the blue. Now we have a question, and Jason, what if the goalie was out of the crease? Then where are we at?
it is a different situation. Now, again, the goalie's not fair game just because they're out of the crease. So if you have a situation like this, I think where even if the goaltender is out of the crease but is moving back to get into the crease, and I see that this player takes a path that is intentional towards the goaltender, I'm still going to have a really hard time awarding a goal here. And again, it's kind of like the common sense answer here of, did you interfere with the goaltender, regardless of crease or no crease? And so while the rules, if you guys are going to look at the rule book and you're going to look at every single word, you're going to see that things do change a little bit when the goaltender's out of the crease. This one would be pretty straightforward for me because you do have the goaltender trying to push back kind of towards the crease in this situation. And the player is still making a bad choice that ends up interfering with the goaltender's ability to try to make a save here.
Right. And Melissa, I mean, and Jason said it, the goalie's not fair game, but we allow incidental contact outside the crease. If you're not intentionally trying to make contact, but at no time are you allowed to intentionally or recklessly make contact with the goalie, right?
Yeah, for sure. And now, had we been able to see the player kind of let up and almost try to stop and pull back and the goaltender's out of the crease, maybe that's a different situation. But in this one in particular, even if the goalie were out of the crease in that scenario, his intent is going forward. Yeah. There's no way he is going to allow that goalie to make a good goalie play in his crease. So even if he were out of the crease in that situation, there is no chance for that goalie to make a play because of the direction the player is going in, and he's not trying to change direction and not make contact.
Right. And I used to have a boss that used to say, if that blue paint was a pit of alligators, the attacking player would make a much better effort to avoid the crease. And I think that's a good way to look at it. And I would say to all of us, I mean, we all watch the National Hockey League. The next time you watch a game in the NHL, watch how the attacking players, how hard they work to avoid the crease.
Yeah.
Because now they're super talented. They've got a ton of skill with their edge work and the way they can control their bodies. But watch what they do when they drive to the net, how hard they work to avoid the goal.
It's an intelligence thing is where you're getting it. It's not just a skill thing. This player didn't quite have the intelligence to know that his momentum was going to take him into the goaltender. And because of that, he was skilled enough to avoid the contact, but he chose not to. And that could be a stupidity thing, or it could be kind of like what you're saying earlier, Z, like the idea of just the coaching mentality. Go hard to the net. And this kid was like, all right, I'm going hard to the net here. You know?
Yeah. No, exactly. So with that in mind, we've got another player on the net. Let's see what happens here.
Might have a 3-on-1 going the other way. Definitely a 2-on-1. Find his man. A huge save by Locke. What's loose? Three.
Okay, so we'll watch it we'll watch it a couple of more times. So shot on net, the goalie makes the save. The puck is now behind him, or it's going to end up behind him. 19 goes over to get it. The puck scoots loose, and eventually they're going to put it in the net. And we'll show it a couple of more times. And are we going to allow this goal? That's going to be the question coming up. Okay, so let's go to our poll question. What's your call? Goal, no goal, and no penalty, no goal, and minor penalty, or they don't pay me enough for this?
Plays like that, my goodness, they really don't.
That's right.
These are tough though. Like these goal, no goal for contact with the goaltender type of plays. I think they're tough. A lot of the reason being they're bang bang plays where if you get caught watching the puck a little too much as the referee here, you just miss it. Like you have no vision on what the contact was or potentially what happened because you are so puck focused. I see that a lot when I go out and I supervise games nowadays where, the referee just gets caught watching the puck too much.
No, for sure. And this is a really hard one. So,
Yeah.
All right. This is not an easy question. So, and our poll, as you can see, we're pretty much right across the board. There's 3 people that they're looking for video because the paycheck isn't enough. But the rest of us are all in the 30% between goal, no goal and no penalty, and no goal and minor penalty. So we're definitely across the board. Michelle, you've got a question. We're going to answer that in a second. So we're going to come back to Michelle's question. So let's see here. Let's see it again. Let's see if the magic voiceover is going to tell us what's going on.
This mad scramble at the net was initially called a goal on the ice by our officials. However, after a brief talk amongst themselves, they disallowed the goal for goaltender interference. Let's take another look at the play and see why they correctly disallowed the goal. First off, great work by the linesman who was in excellent position, arriving at the blue line just before the puck to correctly wave off the potential offsides. Now let's focus on the play at the net. To start, notice that Madison currently has the incorrect crease on the ice. The rulebook calls for a semicircle crease so that the actual blue area should be bigger than what you see. After the initial save, the Chicago player goes into the blue to pursue the puck, which is behind the goalie. While doing this, he falls on top of the goalie and thus prevents him from moving back across the crease to defend his net. While the attacker is allowed to enter the blue paint, otherwise known as the goal crease, at no time can the attacker do anything to prevent the goalie from playing his position or defending his net. There is no intent here on the part of the Chicago player to hit or otherwise interfere with the Madison goaltender, so no penalty should be called. The only consequence to the Chicago player and team is that because he was in the crease and prevented the goalie from doing his job, the goal should be disallowed and the face-off taken in the neutral zone. Finally, let's talk about the referee on the goal line. First off, he is an excellent.
Okay. So with all of that, I think we have the answer. No goal plus some. Now, the one thing I would say is at the youth rule book or the youth level, we can never not call a penalty. If you're going to make contact with the goalie in the crease, it's got to be a minor penalty. So the one thing I'll say about our magic voice there, this video was designed and trained for the junior officials, and at the junior level, you can call no goal, no penalty. But to be clear here, Melissa, anytime you're calling a penalty for contact with the goalie, we've got to call a minor penalty, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't have one without the other.
And so anything do you want to add here? What would you add for this for the audience?
Well, I think it goes back to what we were speaking about from the last clip. But to bring up what Jason spoke about earlier, I think what makes this one a little more challenging than the last one in a different way is that there was the initial play. So as the referee down there, you've kind of made that decision. You saw where the puck went. It's very hard to then lift your gaze again, to adjust your position and keep your head on a swivel to see all of these different pieces happening. So working as a team here and relying on your partners to see the full vision of what happened is really important. But making sure that you remember that after that first initial play, to get your head up to see everything else happening is really key, to not puck watch. But yeah, the goalie cannot play his position again. So when we talk about interference, if he cannot play his position, he's being interfered with.
Yeah. Jason?
No, I 100% agree. It's and I think the narration says it, where it ends up being a situation where we get together as a team to make sure we get the call right. Obviously, in that situation, that referee down low, we have to be looking at the puck, because ultimately we have to make a determination of whether or not the puck is crossing the line or not. Absolutely. And this is one of those where I wouldn't be upset if that referee down low points for a goal, but then we have a conversation after and we say, listen, yes, the puck crossed the line, but here's something that I just can't look at when I'm just watching a puck like that. So having a linesman, or if it's a 4-man system, or even in a 2-man, getting together as a crew of 2 guys, one who's up high, who has a wider field of vision, and someone who's down low, who's just looking at the puck, coming to a conclusion that even though the puck did cross the line, we have bigger issues at stake that are potentially going to take that goal away.
No,
It's huge.
yeah, no, keep going, Melissa. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say teamwork in a situation like this is huge. And yeah, most of the time you need to make a call in that moment, but to come together to make sure that the right decision is being made is key in a scenario like this. There's so much going on.
Yes, no, exactly. And I think, and a shameless plug, later in December, I'm going to be hosting a Zoom cast on teamwork. And this is a really good example on teamwork where our team came together to get the right answer. So we've got a couple of questions here. Let's answer Michelle's question. In the case where an official hears a coach throughout the game clearly ask his or her players to crash the net and contact is made at velocity, is that grounds for us to consider a higher level of penalty, whether it's a major, things like that? So, either one of you guys want to answer that question?
I think the rule book makes it clear. Charging is a great option for contact with the goaltender. So outside of just incidental contact, which might be interference, charging the goaltender, which would then be a minor plus misconduct or potentially a major plus game misconduct, is always an option as well. Those would be situations where you think maybe it's more intentional. The player is intentionally making contact with the goaltender, or it's just reckless endangerment. Again, that wording is great. It applies to a situation where, hey, maybe it wasn't intentional, the player making contact with the goaltender, but it was certainly reckless and it endangered the safety of the goaltender. Now, it seems like the question is kind of getting at more of the coach saying crash the net. Is that like saying to go potentially do it on purpose? And I don't think you'll see that very often. So I think maybe I would stay away from interpreting it that way. Crashing the net is kind of a strategy to score a goal more than trying to potentially hurt a goaltender, I think. But yeah, we have those tools in the toolbox of charging specifically, I think, to get at maybe something that's a little bit more severe than just interference with the goaltender.
Yeah, and Melissa, it's, I think velocity is the right word there, right? And certainly if you are intentionally running over the goalie, once again, that player probably forfeits the right to stay in the game. But if you're just, if you're hitting a goalie at a high rate of speed because you've lost track of the ice or you're not paying attention, that's still reckless endangerment, right? And there's penalties for that.
Yeah, and I think interference on the goalie, to me, is pretty straightforward. You're not letting them play their position. I think when there is, as in the question, velocity being had, there are other penalties that fit better, like Jason was saying. So making sure that we're using the penalties that we have available to us and labeling it correctly, I think is key. Because then the coaches and the players should know, like, this isn't just, being in the way of the goalie. This is a charge or a check, whatever ends up happening in that play. There's a better label that can teach them what they should not be doing.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so moving on. And we've seen this one before on Facebook and our other social media channels, but let's, what are we calling here? We're going to the net. Player wraps them up, maybe, maybe not. We see our referee in the corner in good position with his arm up in the air. But do we, as participants, and you make the call live here on Tuesday night, do we like this call? So let's go to our next poll question. What are we doing?
What does the dog think?
The dog, I'm a little concerned with the dog. The dog's got bad judgment.
You think so?
Yeah,
I'm going to
Piper,
assume that the dog might have similar judgment to a lot of people, though, when I see youth hockey games and what gets called here.
we can't talk about our spectators like that. So
Fair enough. I'm interested to see how this one comes back, though.
Piper the dog wants to go chase a squirrel.
Fair enough.
Okay, so we've got almost our entire group here has weighed in. We'll end the poll. We'll share the results. We're split 54 to 46. 54% want to call a penalty shot optional minor. 46% want to call a minor penalty. The good news is nobody thinks that that's a clean legal play. So we're in business there. So we'll show you one more time the play. All right, so what's our answer? Our answer is penalty shot optional minor. A penalty shot optional minor shall be awarded the non-defending team anytime a player is fouled from behind or diagonally from behind by an opponent and is denied a reasonable scoring opportunity during a breakaway. So, Melissa, talk to us about this play.
Yeah, I think the key here is the from behind or diagonally from behind. So as we're watching that, the player definitely had a step on him and he was fouled. So a hold, whether it were to be a slash or a trip, whatever the infraction was here, sure, kind of a little bit more of a hold, but he had no opportunity to get a fair shot off in this situation. There were no players between him and the net, and fouled from behind or diagonally, however you want to kind of look at that. It's a little bit of both. Yeah, absolutely a penalty shot.
Right, so we still consider this, this is still a breakaway. It doesn't have to occur in this area in here. I'm like John Madden with the telestrator.
It's good
So,
stuff too. Yeah.
It can be there from the side, right, Jason, on this angle?
Yeah, and I think that I don't know what it is. If it's a situation where it's a misunderstanding of the rule, or if as officials collectively, half of us, like you can kind of see from the answer that came back, half of us are just not willing to correctly award a penalty shot in these situations because I guess it's not a clear enough breakaway. But listen, this absolutely hits all the criteria for what a penalty shot should be. And I see way too many games where these are just being called as minor penalties for holding instead of correctly being called as penalty shot optional minor for holding. And I don't know what, I don't know. To me, I like penalty shots. They're exciting. If I see an opportunity to call one, I like calling them. And it seems like other people, a lot of officials maybe have the opposite mentality of, I see what looks like to be a potential penalty shot situation, but that's a big moment in a game, and I don't want to potentially insert myself into that moment. I don't know. I like penalty shots. They're exciting. If I see something that looks like a penalty shot, I'm giving it. That looks like a penalty shot to me.
I think one of the things that makes it challenging is, like, was that enough to be a penalty shot?
Oh yeah.
Like as you're going through it, you're kind of thinking, was that enough? And it's happening quickly. You can't rewatch it.
Yeah.
So to err on the side of safety, like you said, okay, 2-minute minor.
Yeah, and I think it's a mentality that a lot of people they get themselves into. The nice thing about these penalty shot, and the nice thing about the penalty shot, non-penalty shot situations is a majority of the time, 9 out of 10 times, you're going to be hitting the whistle immediately anyway. Slow down. Think about it. It's kind of like what you're saying, right? Where is it or is it not? It's not a bad mentality to get into of, does this hit all of the criteria, right? Are they on a breakaway? Are they beyond their defending blue line? Was there a situation where they are being fouled directly or kind of diagonally from behind? And if you slow down and you really think about this situation, we're absolutely hitting all of the criteria for a penalty shot. And we should therefore reward the player that had the skill to get onto a situation that was a penalty or a breakaway, the ability to have that scoring opportunity restored. Right.
And Jason, that's what you just said at the end there is the most important thing in this whole conversation. What's the purpose of a penalty shot? the purpose of a penalty shot is to restore a lost scoring opportunity.
Right.
This player had a really good scoring opportunity that was taken away. And Martin asks, if that was a slash, would we still be calling a penalty
but
shot?
I said absolutely, Z. Yeah, absolutely, it's a penalty shot.
100%. And I think we have to recognize as well for those in the audience that have maybe been doing this for a long period of time. And as I look through our participants, we've got some longtime officials here that have been watching. Things always change. The game's different now than it was 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. The standard for a penalty shot 10, 12 years ago was significantly tighter than what it is now.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but we tend to have a much more liberal standard for penalty shots now versus what we had 10, 15 years ago. And I would agree, don't be afraid to call it, folks.
It's the standard of play, right? Like the idea of a hook in the neutral zone or a hook in the defensive zone or whatever it might be. It's the same idea here, just in this case, if they're on a breakaway, it's a penalty shot.
Yeah.
And this, the idea of, oh, well, they get a shot off. It's a more reasonable scoring opportunity. A more reasonable scoring opportunity was taken away in that situation. So it's absolutely got to be a penalty shot in those situations.
For sure.
100%.
All right. So now this is one I know we here have been waiting to show. There's going to be some body contact in the far corner here. So that's what we're going to watch. I gotta turn off my pointer though. Here we go. All right. So it's down there in the corner. And we'll watch it again, and then I'll slow it down. So the question here is, on this body check, is there a penalty? And if so, what is the penalty? Okay. So with that, what's the call? No penalty, the player is falling when he was hit. Minor penalty for head contact, minor plus misconduct for head, minor 2 + 10 for head contact, 5 in a game, or a match penalty. The good news here is almost all of you think we're calling some sort of penalty. That's a hint for the audience. We've got a couple of more votes to come in, waiting for our last precincts to report. Okay, so let's share our results. All right, so 5 in game for head contact is leading with 42%, 2 + 10 is at 37%. Another group have a match penalty, and then we have 4% with a minor, and 10% say no penalty, the player is falling when he is hit. So let's show this one more time. And so if we're going to break this down, right, Melissa, there's no question that the player in red here is going for a clean body check, and then at the last minute, the player in the gray goes down low, right?
Yep.
And we all agree on this case that the head contact, that there is head contact, that player in red makes contact with the gray player's head, correct?
Without a doubt.
All right. So if we've established those facts, what's the call? First off, in USA Hockey, there is no such thing as a minor penalty for head contact, right? At the youth level. So the answer is minor and miscontact, minor 2 and 10 for head contact. So Melissa, whether the player's falling or not, that doesn't matter for us, correct?
Right. The head contact was made. It's kind of unfortunate in this situation that it happened and ended up that way, but the check still happened and the onus is on the player making the hit. So the attempt should be made to let up, to not hit maybe with quite the intent that he was when the player was on his feet, but the contact still happened.
That's correct. And so we've had a question about no injury potential. So, you know, I think we have to acknowledge the fact that this player was going to make a clean body check and then the player goes down at the last second, right? I think we have to acknowledge that to a certain extent, does the player deserve to be thrown out for that case? And now, you know, so we'll ask, you know, two things that must be decided on this play. Is it a hit to the head and whether or not the player is falling? But hey, he hits him pretty hard. Can it be 5 in a game? And so on this one, Jason, the answer is kind of yes, right? And this has to do with our judgment. Those of you that said this is 5 in a game, you're not necessarily wrong, and we're not going to say you're wrong here, correct?
No, I mean, I don't have an issue. I think the more important thing here is labeling than potentially what the call is that gets made. There's some chatter in the chat about, well, this is kind of maybe falls under like the roughing rule, you know, like there's no intent to play the puck, so therefore roughing. That would be a problem, because if you label this as roughing, you are going to be incorrect in that you're only going to be assessing a minor penalty. The truth of the matter is, and this gets into a question that maybe we'll address at the very end, we have to label this correctly because there is a more severe thing that happens here. And that's the idea of the head contact, the contact that's being made with the opposing player's head. In that situation, we really are tied down to really a couple of situations here where it's either going to be a minor plus a misconduct or a 5 in a game. But if you label this as head contact and you end up calling either a minor plus misconduct or a major plus game, I don't think anybody's really going to have an issue with either of those. This is one where, you know, yeah, maybe it gets sent in to the local administrator and they look at it and they say, I don't know, maybe not 5 in a game, and they let the player play in the next game. Oh, okay. Maybe you call a minor and a misconduct and it gets sent to the local administrator, and that specific local administrator says, you know what, this should have been a 5 in a game, supplementary discipline. We're going to give the game misconduct. Who knows? This is absolutely a judgment type of thing, but we absolutely need to be calling this head contact.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's a really important thing. And, you know, as we come to the top of the hour, and we showed you guys one that was relatively controversial at the end because we wanted to see the discussion, and certainly we've had some talks about he's got no interest in playing the puck. And at the youth level, you know, the purpose of a body check is to not only separate the player from the puck, but to win possession of the puck. The way his body is turned and the way that play's coming around the wall, if he cuts him off there and that player stays upright, that puck ends up right on his stick. So you can't necessarily say that. You know, and does he recklessly endanger him? Yes, he does. But why does he recklessly endanger him? He recklessly endangers him because the player falls at the last second. So, you know, officiating is not easy. There's a lot of different things that go on here. A coach may say to you, what do I tell my player to do differently? Is there a lot that player?
Yeah, don't deliver the hit there.
Right, body check. Correct. And so that's why this isn't easy. So neither one of those questions, neither one of those answers are wrong. We're going to tell you it's your judgment based on the way the play unfolds. You know, if that play falls down earlier and he drives through him, you know what? Then in that case, yeah, it's absolutely a major in a game misconduct because he made no attempt to minimize the hit. He made no attempt to avoid a reckless, you know, he made no attempt to protect the player or anything like that. Now, with all of that said, we do have one question, which I think is a great question. And Melissa, I'm going to throw this to you here. And I'm just going to read it out for the audience. And it says, I have a question about principle. I am a new level 1, level 2 referee. My colleagues, referees with 10 plus years of experience, tell me that I should try to call the least penalizing penalty. For example, if it's a 2 and a 10, then I should try to only call 2 minutes for roughing instead of maybe 2 and 10 for boarding. Shouldn't officials call the best applicable penalty, irrespective of the degree of punishment? Melissa, how would you answer that question?
Whoever asked that question, that's a great question. And my answer to you is, yeah, I think you've got it right. The reason we call penalties not only is because something wrong happened, but to teach the players, especially at a lower level. So making sure that you're calling the penalty that best fits the scenario that happened is important, not only for yourself making the quote unquote right call, but to teach the players, teach the coaches, teach the parents what just happened. So yeah, are there situations where roughing might fit better? Absolutely. But if you can label it better, you want to label it better. And interference, for example, every penalty is interference in the grand scheme of things, right? Every penalty interferes with a player, but that doesn't mean that we then label it interference. So if it's a holding, we need to call it holding instead of interference, if that is a better call to distinguish between a straight up interference that just blocked a player from playing their position like they need to or want to, or is holding them and not allowing them to get to that position. So I think you're entirely on the right track there. Call the penalty that best fits the situation.
Jason?
I'll keep it short since I know we're running out of time. Your colleagues are wrong. And they're most likely wrong because they're scared to make the right call. It's hard to go out there as an official and make the right call when it is sometimes the more severe penalty. And I get it. You have to see these coaches a lot throughout the season sometimes. You might have Johnny's mom yelling at you from the stands because you're making the right call. But ultimately, that's why we're there. I think Melissa said it earlier. We don't make the rules. We go out there and we enforce the rules the way that they're written. They've been written, to go all the way back to the way Z started the kind of session. They've been written the way they've been written because people that know a lot more about hockey, that are a lot smarter than me about hockey, think these are the way the rules should be written. So that's the way that we have to enforce them. The idea of calling the least severe penalty just so that you don't have to potentially be yelled at is not the right way to move up the ranks as an official.
And ultimately it comes down to credibility.
Yeah.
Everybody's watching the game. And if you call something that isn't, you lose credibility. And look, I'm not going to, none of us, Melissa, Jason, or I are going to sit here and say it's easy. And sometimes it's really hard to call 2 and 10 versus a minor penalty. But, you know, a lot of those rules are that way because they're dangerous actions. And a 12-minute penalty is much more significant than a 2-minute penalty. And why is that? Because when you do something such as boarding or you hit somebody in the head, those carry serious consequences, and we want to protect the players that are fouled as well. And there's got to be a difference, and I'll end it with this. There's a difference in a hockey game between somebody that gets hit in the head versus somebody that has their arm hooked by a stick or has their shoulder grabbed by a glove. There's a big difference there. And that's when the rules are made and those penalties are the way they are. That's because of it. But that's a fantastic question, and I think a great question for us to kind of wrap up on. It's 5 minutes after the hour. As I think it, you know, this was a great hour. I want to thank Melissa and Jason. As we wrap up here, just so you can see what our upcoming episodes are. December 7th, we're going to have a plain rules question and answer. So a little more questions on the plain rules for those of you that might have them. We'd encourage you to join in there. And then, as we talked about before, teamwork on December 21st. I'm going to be back talking about teamwork. How is the officials on the ice, whether there's 2 of us, 3 of us, or 4 of us, can work together to support each other. I have a sense we might see that play from Madison again when we talk about that. And then the first episode of 2022, we're going to be talking about officiating IQ. So those are our upcoming episodes as we move forward here. Melissa and Jason, I just want to thank you for your time and appreciate you guys joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and for all of you in the audience, here is this would be what, Thanksgiving Eve. For all of you, we know Thanksgiving is a time of year where there's a ton of hockey going on. Everybody's going to be in the rinks over the next few days. We know that's kind of part of our Thanksgiving tradition as officials. But nonetheless, on behalf of Melissa and Jason and all of us at USA Hockey, I want to wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully you all get an opportunity to spend some time with friends and family and think about what you're thankful for. And I can tell you, all of us at USA Hockey, we're thankful for all of you out there for doing what you're doing to serve the game and going out there and working games to the best of your abilities. So happy Thanksgiving to all of you. We wish you the best, and we'll see you again here on a future Tuesday night Zoomcast. Bye now.